Hello everyone and welcome back to another video on my channel, and today we are going to be looking at Joe Biden's vice president potential picks and whether they will help or hinder his campaign in the 2020 election. Now this is the very familiar election map, and the states in grey are the swing states in this election in my opinion. I think Iowa and Ohio are pretty solid for Trump by a likely margin. I think Texas will go to Trump by a lean margin, and same in New Hampshire. But these are the swing states, and we're going to be seeing the 4 different nominees that I think have a chance of being the candidate, and seeing whether they help Joe Biden or whether they hinder him or help him in places he doesn't necessarily need. So it's hard to think that somebody would hurt your campaign chances, but you would actually be wrong, because Amy Klobuchar, apparently, this is the map, and red, the darker the red the more it hinders, and the darker the blue the more it helps. And as you can see, obviously Minnesota clearly helps, because it's her state. She's a senator from there, and you would expect her to appeal there. But then she appeals to states like North Dakota, South Dakota, Nebraska and Kansas, which, let's be real, are states that are going to go to Trump by safe margins nonetheless. Whether Klobuchar can only just bring that down to likely, it's not really what Joe Biden wants from a vice president candidate. And say like Iowa, Ohio, again, that could probably bring them down to lean margins, but at the end of the day, they'd still be Trump states, and they're going to go to Trump even if Klobuchar is picked. So, and Illinois, which is already a Democrat state. So Klobuchar clearly hinders more than she helps. She is lowering support in states like Wisconsin, Michigan and Pennsylvania. These 3 states are very surprising. Because she's from Minnesota, I thought she would have raised support in these 3 states, as it's part of the Rust Belt almost. I'm pretty sure Minnesota's part of the Rust Belt, right? Well, she's from that region anyway. And I'd have thought she'd have helped in those states, but as you can see, she clearly hinders it quite a bit. And that could be the difference of Joe Biden picking them up or Trump picking them up. So, and according to this, Joe Biden's chances of winning would actually go down by about 5%, which is very interesting. Because it's interesting because like states like Virginia, it decreases quite a lot, and that is a state that I think will be quite safe for the Democrats, but going down by dark red, that would definitely make it a lean state probably. Hindering in states like Arizona could cause that to flip. I'm not saying California, Oregon, Washington or any of that's going to flip, but key states like Arizona, North Carolina, Virginia, Georgia, Florida, Michigan, Pennsylvania and Wisconsin, it's all just hindrances, and Joe Biden needs a candidate who can appeal to them all. And one of the reasons for this is because Klobuchar appeals to the elderly, and Joe Biden's practically got the elderly vote locked down. As said here, strengths among older voters, which is something Biden is not something Biden lacks. And the issue with Klobuchar is she doesn't really appeal to the youth as much. Joe Biden will definitely need a candidate who can appeal to youth and try and get them to turn out in droves, as they would do for Bernie if he was a candidate. So yeah, Klobuchar's an interesting one. I'm surprised these are the states rather than these are the states that she appeals in more. It's interesting to look at, because I would have thought Klobuchar, literally yesterday, before I looked at this, I'd have thought Klobuchar was the best candidate for Joe Biden, because I mean, she's from the Rust Belt region, and she's won in like rural areas in Minnesota, so she's proven that. She's proven she can appeal to the type of voters the Republicans would get. So in these states, I'd have thought she'd have done well, but clearly not. And it's just a hindrance in all the other swing states that could be crucial to the election. And I think if Joe Biden were to pick her and his chances went down, it's very, very interesting. and I'm pretty sure she has a bad history with how she treats her workers or something like that. I don't know exactly, I'd have to look into it. Now, moving on to the next candidate, which Klobuchar is the only one who hinders his chances, which is actually very interesting because I again thought Klobuchar was the best candidate literally yesterday until I saw this. So, let's move on to the next candidate, which is Stacey Abrams, from Georgia. Now, she does up his chances by about 4% of winning, and she does appeal to African Americans a lot. Like, she helps in Texas, she helps a lot in Georgia, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, which is quite surprising actually, Florida, North Carolina, Nevada, Arizona as well. She helps Joe Biden in a lot of states, crucial states, Arizona particularly, the Rust Belt, especially Pennsylvania, North Carolina as well. I don't think with Stacey Abrams, Georgia or North Carolina would go to Joe Biden, but they would certainly be in the lean or tilt margin, more likely tilt. Florida as well, Ohio, not that it would go to Joe Biden, but it would narrow it down, and hinders in states like Wyoming, Idaho, Arkansas, Tennessee, Kentucky. It doesn't matter in those states because they are going to Donald Trump nonetheless. With Stacey Abrams on the ticket, I think these states would be tilt, but I still don't think they would go to Joe Biden. I think Pennsylvania would be lean, Michigan would be lean, Wisconsin would be tilt, Arizona would be lean, and Florida would still go to Trump by a tilt margin. If Stacey Abrams was on the ticket, I could predict this happening. Georgia particularly moving out of the lean margin into tilt, but I still don't think she would help him pick up Georgia. I do not think Stacey Abrams on the ticket is going to help him pick up Georgia. She also helps in New Hampshire, which Trump does have a chance of picking up this election, but it's only for electoral points at the end of the day. So she is a very interesting candidate. She definitely helps more than she hinders, and definitely helps in some of the key battleground states. Texas would be quite narrow. Florida would definitely get closer, and I think any three of these candidates, Stacey Abrams, Kamala Harris or Elizabeth Warren, would be good choices for Joe Biden. I just think Stacey Abrams doesn't have the experience to be a vice president in office. I just think he'd need someone with a little more nationwide renowned over Stacey Abrams. So, our next candidate we're looking at is Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris is from California and helps in California, but that doesn't really matter because California's locked down for the Democrats anyway. Helps quite a bit in Arizona, which is very crucial because Arizona would be and is going to be a key state in this election. Helps in Colorado, which is quite good for him. Michigan, particularly in the Rust Belt, but also helps in Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Minnesota, Iowa. Hinders in New Hampshire, so that could trigger a Republican flip in New Hampshire. I could definitely see that happening under Kamala Harris. Florida gets closer, Georgia and North Carolina get closer, but not by as big on margins as with Stacey Abrams. New Mexico gets better, but New Mexico is pretty solid for them. If Kamala Harris was on the ticket, I could see Arizona going by lean, Michigan going by lean, Pennsylvania by lean, Wisconsin by lean, but I would actually say New Hampshire would flip probably, North Carolina by tilt, Georgia by lean, and Florida by tilt. I think this would be the electoral map if Kamala Harris was on the ticket, but I think she would secure the Rust Belt states more. Like, it'd probably be closer to the 5% mark in Michigan, rather than under Stacey Abrams. And I do think Kamala Harris would be a good choice, and she's a woman of color as well, which is also a help for Joe Biden. But it would it definitely helped Joe Biden to pick either of these next two candidates. I don't know why I keep getting that Steam notification. Just go away. Both of these two candidates, Kamala Harris and Elizabeth Warren, who is the next one, are both probably, in my view, the front runners, or who he should pick. Because, Stacey Abrams, let's have a look, ups it from 74 to 75. Okay, so not by as much as Stacey Abrams, but I actually disagree. I think Kamala Harris would up his chances to winning the Rust Belt more than Stacey Abrams would, and I think Kamala Harris would be a better VP. And yeah, as it says here, she does well with younger voters. That is crucial for Joe Biden, as he's an old white man, which isn't breaking any barriers at all. Have someone who can appeal to the younger voter, get them out in states like Michigan, especially Wisconsin, get the younger voters out, then they basically secure those states. Arizona as well, crucial state. So Kamala Harris would definitely be a good one. I could maybe see Joe Biden losing New Hampshire in this case, but that wouldn't be a big deal. Florida would definitely get close as well. And now on to what this, I guess, poll shows as the number one candidate. I don't know whether this is a biased poll. I don't know for sure, but this is the data we have. This is Elizabeth Warren. Now, you'll instantly see it's a lot of blue. She doesn't hinder in many states at all, and the states she does are all red states anyway, except from Delaware, but I don't think Joe Biden needs any more help in Delaware. He's a senator from Delaware, he's got it locked down, and Democrats would have it locked down anyway. But Michigan, Wisconsin, dark blue states, that would definitely help. Colorado, dark blue. Arizona, dark blue. Texas, surprisingly, I didn't expect this, dark blue. Which would, this isn't an electoral map, by the way. I feel like I must point out, this is just how it increases the chance. The darker the colour, the more it increases. This is not an electoral map. It's not saying Texas is safe if Elizabeth Warren is picked, but it's very interesting. Not New Hampshire would be locked down. Michigan, Wisconsin, Texas, Georgia and North Carolina are like medium to dark blue. Florida, it's pretty dark blue as well. It's pretty much dark blue everywhere, and she would definitely help. From this data, I must stress, all this prediction here is from this data here. I would predict that Arizona would still be lean. Wisconsin would be lean this time rather than tilt. That would be likely. That would be tilt. That would be likely. That would be tilt. So I predict this for. See, there's not much change in my predictions because I do think Florida will go to Donald Trump. Under Elizabeth Warren, from this data, I could see it going tilt Democrat. So let's say that. Under this data, from what I've got here, I could definitely see it going tilt Democrat. Georgia, I still don't think so. I don't think anyone, not even Stacey Abrams, could improve enough in the state of Georgia to get it there. I think Elizabeth Warren actually appeals more in Georgia than Stacey Abrams does, which is very, very interesting actually. But yeah, from this data I could definitely see this happening. Again, I don't know whether this is a biased poll, but I can see why she would do well. She appeals to the youth more because she is a progressive. Of course, she has slated Bernie Sanders in the debates quite a bit, so many progressives aren't going to like that. I think 7% of the progressives, or 7% of the Democrat Party, are Bernie or bust. They're not going to vote for anyone who isn't Bernie. But having Elizabeth Warren on there would definitely appease the progressives and definitely cause more of a want to come out and vote for Biden, because she does want Medicare. She believes in Medicare for all, so it's appealing to the progressives already. and I think 80% or 70% of progressives said they would come out and vote anyway, but Elizabeth Warren could get that up by 2, 3, 4%, which definitely could be the difference between winning and losing the election. Definitely could be. But yeah, let's see if there's anything else. Yeah, Biden's odds of winning go up by almost 10%. Again, this could be a biased progressive poll, which it probably very well could be. There's a lot of arguing down here about it, but here, voter enthusiasm, already working class and older voters, so the one on the ticket, Biden's odds go up. And it is probably simply down to the appeasing of the progressives. If they can get like the university towns or college towns to come out and vote in states like Michigan, Wisconsin, they would definitely flip. That's why Wisconsin goes up to a lean margin rather than a tilt, because of this dark blue. But yeah, it's very interesting to see the different candidates and how they affect it. I was really shocked by Klobuchar. I don't know whether this is an anti-Klobuchar poll, but I did not expect it to be this bad. I thought she would appeal to Wisconsin and Michigan, maybe Indiana, but they wouldn't really matter a lot more. Stacey Abrams surprisingly appealed to a lot of places, a lot more than I thought she would, but I think she just lacks the experience to go into office. Kamala Harris, a good option. I think would be very interesting, although could potentially lose New Hampshire. They'd probably have to campaign up there for a while, but definitely could secure Arizona, Michigan with Kamala Harris, and would break a couple more barriers than a white female as vice president with Elizabeth Warren. But I mean, it's very conclusive, this evidence, almost too conclusive in favour of Elizabeth Warren. But from this data, apparently she's the candidate to go for, even though she's she's a white female. It's still a female, which would probably add enthusiasm of female voters, and she's a progressive, which will help with progressive voters. And I could definitely see this happening. Maybe even Iowa going down to lean because of the dark blue in Iowa. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. That's the end of this video. Tell me what you guys think, whether Elizabeth Warren should be the candidate, whether Kamala Harris should be the candidate, Stacey Abrams or Klobuchar, and what you think of this poll. I don't know what to think about it. This is the data I've been given. Well, we've been given as people, and it's pretty conclusive. But what do you guys think? Do you think Elizabeth Warren would be a foolish one, and not enough Bernie supporters would come out to make it worth it for her, or whether you think Kamala Harris should be it, or something like that? So thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, share and subscribe, and I will see you guys in my next video.